Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a compassionate blueprint for supporting families as they navigate the journey of Alzheimer's. We're going to explore how a mix of love, smart planning, and community can make a world of difference for everyone involved. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is Alzheimer's? Well, you can think of it as a progressive brain disorder where these abnormal proteins, they're called plaques and tangles, start to build up. Imagine them as tiny roadblocks that mess with the communication lines between brain cells, which eventually causes those cells to die off. And one thing is absolutely critical to remember. This is a disease. It is not, I repeat, not a normal part of getting older. And the scale of this is it's huge. Right now in the United States, we're talking about 6.9 million people over the age of 65 living with an Alzheimer's diagnosis. But that number doesn't even tell the whole story, because for every single one of those individuals, there's a whole universe of family, friends, and caregivers whose lives are profoundly changed too. But look, this explainer isn't just going to be a deep dive into the science of the disease. It's really about the human side of this story. It's about the incredible, powerful ways that families and entire communities can pull together to face this challenge head-on with compassion and resilience. So, where do you start? Well, the first and probably most crucial step is to build a caregiving team. This is all about changing your perspective, moving away from the idea that one person has to carry this heavy burden alone and shifting toward a shared family mission. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got this scenario we see all too often. One person trying to juggle everything, which, let's be honest, is a fast track to burnout. But then you look to the right and you see a much healthier, much more sustainable model, the family acting as a collective team, where responsibilities are shared and nobody is left to carry that weight all by themselves. So what does it actually look like to support that team? Well, it starts with the practical stuff, right? Divvying up the daily tasks. But the emotional support is just as vital. Things like joining a support group, making self-care a priority. These aren't luxuries. They are absolute essentials for building the resilience you're going to need for the long haul. Okay, so you've assembled your team. The next big piece of the puzzle is communication. Because as the disease progresses, the way you connect with your loved one is going to change. And the key is learning to speak a new language, one rooted in compassion. Now, this can be really, really tough, but it is so important to grasp. When your loved one is struggling to find a word, or they get frustrated, or maybe even become aggressive, it's so easy to take it personally. But you have to remember, that's the disease talking. It's a symptom. It is not a personal attack on you. And holding on to that can help you respond with empathy instead of frustration. And this right here, this is an absolute game changer. Instead of correcting something they say that isn't true, try to validate the emotion behind it. So if they say they want to go home, even if they're already in their own living room, don't argue the point. You could say something like, "It sounds like you're thinking of a place that feels really safe and comfortable. Tell me about it." You're connecting with the feeling, not fighting about the fact. And you can keep that bond strong by tapping into what experts call preserved skills. It's fascinating, really. Things like music, art, and long-term memories are often stored in parts of the brain that are affected much later. So singing old songs together, flipping through photo albums, just listening to their favorite tunes, these can be incredibly powerful ways to connect when words start to fail. All right, let's shift gears to something that can feel, well, pretty daunting: planning for the future. I know it can seem overwhelming, but taking these proactive steps now can bring a huge sense of clarity and control back to the whole family. And that's the question on everyone's mind when they get a diagnosis, isn't it? Where do we even begin? Your head is spinning, and it's a completely normal feeling. But the good news is, you can break this down into smaller, much more manageable steps. Here's a simple little roadmap to get you going. First, start those big conversations about legal, financial, and medical wishes as soon as you possibly can. Second, get the legal permissions you'll need to talk to doctors and lawyers. Trust me, it will save you so many headaches down the line. And third, get organized. Create one central spot for all the important documents. Doing this stuff early just reduces so much stress for everyone. But the single most important reason to plan early is this. It gives the person with the diagnosis a voice in their own future. Involving them in these decisions for as long as they are able, well, that's a powerful way to honor who they are and preserve their dignity. And finally, the last thing to remember, and this might be the most important takeaway of all, is that you are not alone. You do not have to walk this path in isolation. There is a huge network of support out there just waiting for you to reach out. I mean, just look at this list. And believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a whole army of allies out there, from local services right in your own community to big national organizations like the National Institute on Aging's ADEAR Center. Whether you need a support group, info on clinical trials, or just a professional to talk to, reaching out is a sign of strength. It's not a weakness. And that really brings us to our final thought for today. This compassionate blueprint we've been talking about, it isn't just about what a single family can do. It's bigger than that. It's about what we can all do as a society. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. How can we build communities where compassion is always the first response, and where no family ever has to feel like they're facing this journey alone?